Perpendicular lines. If I say two parallel lines, don't just read it off the board. What does that mean?
Next to each other.
They're right next to each other. That is perfect. Parallel lines. They have the same slope. So they look like that. Do parallel lines ever intersect? No, because the slope doesn't change, right? It's exactly the same, so they just follow each other. Like train tracks are parallel lines. Okay. Perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines. Now this is the mathematical definition of a perpendicular line. The product of the slopes is -1. What the heck does that mean? It means if you multiply the slopes, you get -1. But here's an easier way to think about it. Perpendicular lines, do it in a different color, meet at a right angle. Right? Do you understand the little square or the little thingy majiggy? That means right angle, 90 degrees. If lines intersect at 90 degrees, they are perpendicular. Okay? And yes, when you multiply them together, you get -1, which we will use because when you just have numbers, that's how you have to do it. But visually, if you see two lines and they have a little 90-degree angle symbol there, they're perpendicular. Okay? The other way that I think about it is their slopes are negative reciprocals. So if this has a slope, the green one has a slope of 2, all right? Then this one, which I will represent, you're going to have to get used to this notation. When I want to represent a perpendicular slope, I will do, whoa, I will not do that. I will draw a little thing like that with a 90-degree symbol there. Okay? That means M, which is slope, and this with a 90-degree symbol means perpendicular. So M perpendicular is, you basically take the slope of the other line, you flip it. So if I flip 2, what do I get? 1/2, right? Because you can write 2 as a fraction, like 2/1, right? So I write 1/2, and you make it negative. Okay? These are perpendicular lines. If they have, the other way to say it is if they have negative reciprocal slopes. So reciprocal is when you flip a fraction or a number, and negative obviously is a negative. Okay? So let's do, we'll just do this one here. So if I have a slope, we have line segment AC that has a slope of 3/4. Slope GH is parallel. What does that mean? If two lines are parallel, what are their slopes? The same. So that means MGH, the slope of GH is equal to 3/4. So that's one of the things that'll make this unit difficult is the words have meaning and can change the whole question. I mean, I guess you could always say they do that. But if I say parallel versus perpendicular, that means something. So next one, BF is perpendicular to AC. So what is the slope of BF if it's perpendicular to AC? What do we do with the slope? Flip it. That's first step. So if I flip 3/4, I get 4/3 and put a negative sign. That's the slope of BF. Is that okay? You being serious? Oh, you want to know why that is? Okay. Darian. Okay. Tell me if these are perpendicular or parallel. M1 is 1/4, M2 is 3/12. Are they parallel or perpendicular? They're parallel because 3/12 reduces to 1/4. So these are parallel. Or I guess neither is the other option. So 5/7, 14/10, parallel, perpendicular, or neither. Are they perpendicular? If for them to be perpendicular, one of them has to be negative, right? And they're not parallel, because I can reduce this fraction to 7/5, but that's not the same, right? I need the negative. So these are just neither. They're nothing. They're nobodies. All right. We got a couple more things to do, and then we're done. This is a very short lesson. All right. All right. Point P has the coordinates 4, 7. Point Q has the coordinates 6, -2. Find the slope of a line segment A that is parallel to that line segment. So if you're parallel, what kind of slopes do you have? The same. So the very first thing we need to do is find the slope. And we have points. So what formula are we going to use? Use rise over run when you have a graph. All right. Use that formula when you have points. So set 1, set 2. -2 minus 7 over 6 minus 4. What's -2 minus 7? What's 6 minus 4? So if I said a parallel line segment, do I have to do anything to that? Because it means it has the same slope. So that's just the slope of PQ. If I say find a perpendicular slope, what do you do with that slope? Flip it now. So M perpendicular. If it's already negative and I put a negative in front of it, what happens to it? It turns positive. So the perpendicular slope is just 2/9. Yeah, Austin. All right, can I skip? I got one more question. Is that okay? You don't have a negative because what you did is you'd flip that, right? Say the negative's on the 9, and then I put a negative in front of it. What happens to those two negatives? That's why you just get 2/9. And we're going to go to this question right here. Two lines have slopes of -3/4 and k/5. Find the value of k if the lines are parallel. All right. So they tell us a slope, one of the lines has this. I'll just say M1 is equal to -3/4. And M2 is equal to k/5. Okay, I'm just assigning set 1, set 2 to this. Now, if I say that they are parallel lines, what does that mean about the slopes? They have to be the same. That means that M1 has to equal M2. So -3/4 has to equal k/5. Guys, stop. How do I solve for k? Yeah, algebra is correct. You multiply what, Macy? Yeah, multiply the 5 up. So you get -15/4. You can just leave it like that. I mean, you can give me a decimal. You can give me a mixed fraction if you really want to. But just leave it as an improper fraction. So k is -15/4. Does that make sense? Okay. If I say the lines are perpendicular, what does that mean you have to do to one of the slopes? You got to flip it and make it negative. Now, it doesn't matter which one you do that to, but you're going to make your life easier if you do it to one or the other. Okay? Which one do you think you want to flip? You mean the -3/4? Why? So I would always flip the one that doesn't have the variable. Okay, now there's an exception. If the variable's in the denominator, I would flip that one. But if the variable's in the numerator like this, if you flip that, it goes into the denominator and it creates a little more work for you. All right, so I'm going to flip the negative 3 over 4, but it doesn't matter. But if you flip one, so M1, what do I want to say here? M2 should equal, I'm going to flip M1 and put a negative, so it should equal that, right? If they're perpendicular. So I flip, that should say M1. I flip one of them and make it negative. So I'm flipping the 3 over 4 to get 4 over 3. And if I put a negative in front of it, what happens to the negative that's already there? It goes away. So now I have M2 is equal to 4 over 3, which is K over 5 is equal to 4 over 3. How do you solve for K? Multiply that 5 up. K is equal to 20 over 3. Are there any questions about that? If slopes are the same, you just set them equal, solve. If slopes are perpendicular, you flip one, make it negative, and set them equal, and then solve. Okay? That's the whole lesson. Here's the questions I would like you to do. Number 2A. Yeah. 3, pick, well, there's a whole bunch there. Pick 3 from 3. I don't care which ones. Do number 4. And then 10 and 11. 10 and 11, please. There are your questions.